RMIT would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land on which the university stands.
We respectfully recognise elders past and present. Welcome to Newsline, live from the RMIT studios.
Hello and welcome to Newsline. I'm Sana Katayama.
And I'm Matthew Yinan. Today on the program, cracks are beginning to show in the Israel-US alliance after tense talks between US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
And the latest polling shows that the Victorian Liberal Party has edged ahead of Labour for the first time in 7 years. Later in the program, we'll have updates across international news and we'll dip our toes into the world of culture with arts reporter William Stanley. But first, today's news. U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have had their first phone call in 2 months as fighting in the Middle East intensifies. Israel says the call was positive and appreciated the support of the Americans, despite cracks in the allies' relationship showing as Israel's attack on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran increase. This comes after Netanyahu canceled his defense minister Yoav Gallant's trip to Washington until the call was made.
For the first time in 7 years, the Victorian coalition has a lead over the state Labor Party. The latest Redbridge survey shows the opposition now has a 2-point lead over Labor under Jacinta Allen's premiership, 51 to 49. The poll shows proposed health cuts, cost of living pressures and the housing crisis have led to the shift in public sentiment. It comes just days after several Liberal Party MPs detailed plans to roll opposition leader John Pesutto over his handling of Maura Deeming's expulsion from the party.
Still in Victoria, a far-right activist will be sentenced to prison after performing a Nazi salute. 25-year-old Jacob Herson is the first Victorian to be charged after performing the Nazi salute in October last year, 6 days after new legislation banning the gesture was implemented. Meanwhile, in Sydney, a prominent restaurateur was charged over displaying the Nazi symbol on the flag of Israel, replacing the Star of David with a swastika and the words, "Stop Nazi Israel." In New South Wales, the public display of Nazi symbols and gestures was banned in 2022, with Victoria following a year after.
Officials have urged residents in Florida to take shelter from Hurricane Milton as the time for evacuation has passed. Conditions in Florida are deteriorating and 10 confirmed tornadoes have swept through the region, with 200 km/h winds, placing the city of Tampa in danger. Across the Gulf Coast, many hotels are fully booked as residents escape their homes.
A man who was sexually abused during his time as a student at Beaumaris Primary School in Melbourne has received an $8 million settlement with the Victorian Education Department. The survivor's lawyer said this was the biggest publicly known payment to an abuse survivor in Australia. The man was among a generation of students who suffered abuse in the 1960s and 70s at the hands of Daryl Ray, who died last year. Ray pleaded guilty to 27 counts of indecently assaulting 18 male students and was one of 3 teachers who were the focus of the Victorian government's Board of Inquiry into Sexual Abuse of School Children last year.
$500,000 worth of designer handbags have been stolen from a shop in Glen Waverley in Melbourne South East last month, with police on the hunt for the perpetrators. CCTV vision shows 3 hooded men smashing display cabinets after breaking into a shopping complex on O'Sullivan Road. It's believed the 3 male offenders then fled the scene in a 2008 silver Range Rover Discovery on Snedden Road just after 2:30 a.m. on September 16.
The New South Wales and South Australian governments are hosting a 2-day summit to discuss how social media is affecting the lives of young people. Keynote speaker Frances Haugen was a former Facebook product manager who became a whistleblower in 2021, exposing the social media platform's prioritization of profits over safety. Haugen told the ABC that children should be kept off social media platforms until at least 14 years old. The summit brings together various stakeholders who will discuss how the government can support young people and families with their digital well-being.
New data shows that more than 2/3 of Australians over 50 have low bone density. The new report by Healthy Bones Australia shows more than 6 million Australians aged over 50 currently suffer from poor bone health. That figure is expected to rise to around 8 million by the next decade. Experts estimate there will be more than 2.1 million fractures caused by osteoporosis over the next decade. And that's it for today's headlines.
It's been a year since Hamas committed its October 7 attacks on Israel, killing 1,200 and injuring countless more. Since then, the Gazan Health Ministry says Israel has killed more than 40,000 Palestinians, many of them children, in an act of aggression that could constitute war crimes according to the UN. Thousands flocked to demonstrations in Melbourne on Sunday to mark a year of war and once again call for a ceasefire. Alex Cameron reports.
We have spoken! We stand with Palestine!
Every Sunday for the past year, Melburnians have gathered in the CBD to protest against Israel's war in Gaza. Numbers at the protest had been waning, but Israel's recent invasion of Lebanon seems to have reignited demonstrators, with thousands bringing the city to a standstill on Sunday afternoon.
Probably the only one I could compare it to is like an Invasion Day in terms of size and presence, but yeah, huge numbers. It's really good to see.
There was once again a heavy police presence, just weeks after controversial clashes between police and protesters outside the Land Forces Weapons Expo. Independent Senator Lydia Thorpe and Greens member Gabrielle de Vietri were among the speakers, with Thorpe highlighting solidarity between the struggles of Palestinians and First Nations peoples.
And our continued protests for the last 200 years against this colonial oppressive regime that is also complicit in the genocide in Palestine.
Thousands of paper flags covered with messages and signs bearing the names of countless children killed by Israeli bombing brought a somber note to the demonstration, an inescapable reminder of the devastating human cost of war.
The UN's ruled it as a plausible genocide, and many Holocaust survivors have also called it out as a genocide. And I think, that's what unites all these people, is the common love for humanity.
No justice, no peace.
Organisers say that the crowd numbered in the tens of thousands, with a rally in Sydney also drawing large numbers despite earlier attempts by New South Wales Police to have the demonstration prohibited. Melburnians have once again proven that they're willing to turn out in numbers whatever the weather. It's hard to see how anything short of a ceasefire will mark an end to these weekly demonstrations. Alex Cameron, Newsline.
The 2.5-year trial of shared e-scooters has come to an early end. The City of Melbourne passed a motion ending the contract with scooter companies Lime and Neuron 6 months early. The scooters are now banned from the CBD. William Stanley reports.
It might have come as a bit of a surprise when the City of Melbourne moved a motion to ban hired e-scooters from the CBD. Since their introduction, there have been over 10 million trips recorded throughout the CBD and surrounding suburbs. Their apparent popularity was not enough reason to keep the scooters around.
You know, e-scooters work really well in so many different cities. I don't know why it's such a big problem in Melbourne.
The hired scooters run by companies Lime and Neuron were introduced through a trial back in 2022. Lord Mayor Nicholas Rees has been a strong advocate for their removal, stating that they presented a serious risk and were shameful. The scooters are an emerging technology that has created confusion when it comes to regulating their use.
What we're seeing is really a whole bunch of e-scooters presenting to emergency department, but that does not equate to them being the shared e-scooters. There's no regulatory framework for private e-scooter use other than to say that you need to ride them on the road.
The contracts with Lime and Neuron were not set to expire for another 6 months, leaving the operators disappointed in the ruling. Melbourne now joins other cities, Rome, Paris, Montreal and Toronto, to ban the shared scooters. Introduced as a new eco-friendly mode of transport, local residents express mixed feelings at the removal.
Yes, dangerous, especially for the elderly people that want to come outside and enjoy.
I live in Richmond, so they're just handy.
I think cutting it off is not a great idea. Something else could have been done, like restricting the speed on those vehicles, that how they run.
The decision to stop the shared e-scooter program has been met with some criticism. Most notably, the Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen, who has urged the council to reconsider the ban. With no plan to replace the rental scooters, Lord Mayor Nicholas Reece is standing firm on his decision to keep the scooters off the city streets. The ban that took effect on the 24th of September will only apply to shared scooters, allowing private scooter owners to still operate in the CBD. William Stanley, Newsline.
We're heading to a short break now. We'll be back with an international news update with reporter James Beale.
And William Stanley has all the latest news from the world of culture.
Welcome back to Newsline. I'm Sana Katayama.
And I'm Matthew Yunan. We now turn our attention to international news with James Beale.
Thanks, Matthew. First, in international news, a Nepalese teenager has broken the world record to become the youngest person to ever climb the 14 highest peaks on Earth. Nima Rinji Sherpa reached the summit of Tibet's Mount Shishapangma at about 6:05 local time on Wednesday, completing his goal of climbing the world's tallest mountains as a teenager. He joins a group of a few dozen people to have completed all of the world's 8,000ers, the 14 mountains that the International Mountaineering and Climbing Federation classes as higher than 8,000 meters above sea level. Sherpa began his goal at the age of 16 and has managed to summit all of the peaks in 740 days. In Mexico, a mayor has been murdered in his first week in office. Alejandro Arcos Catalan was beheaded by Mexican cartel members. Catalan was sworn in as the mayor of Chilpancingo, the capital of the southern state of Guerrero, on the 30th of September. The murder came after 2 of Catalan's close allies were shot dead in the early days of his short-lived administration. A secretary was shot on October 3rd, as well as a man who was tipped to become Catalan's security chief. Citizens have since shared footage of the mayor before his death, saying that he wished to be remembered as a champion of peace and happiness. A resident from Kitsap County in the US state of Washington has called 911 when hundreds of raccoons surrounded her home, preventing her from leaving the property. The woman told deputies that she had been feeding the raccoons on her property for more than 38 years. On the day of her call, the woman said to police that she had never seen the animals arrive in such droves. She went on to say that they had only recently become aggressive. Indian tycoon Ratan Tata has died at the age of 86. The news was announced by the Tata Group, the conglomerate he led for over 20 years. Tata was regarded as one of India's most esteemed business leaders. In a statement announcing Tata's death, the current chairman of Tata Sons described him as a truly uncommon leader. As chairman, Tata made several high-profile acquisitions, including the takeover of Anglo-Dutch steelmaker Chorus, UK-based car brands Jaguar and Land Rover, and Tetley, the world's second-largest tea company.
Thanks, James. Obviously, Ratan Tata built a massive career in not only India's financial markets, but also the wider world. How did he create such a legacy?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a great question. I mean, I think to look at the question of a legacy, we need to start at the beginning. And he was born in 1937. He studied architecture and structural engineering at Cornell University in the US. Now, at the age of 25, so in 1962, he joined Tata Industries as an assistant, spending 6 months training at a company plant in Jamshedpur. After this, he went on to work at Tata Iron and Steel Company, Tata Consultancy Services, and National Radio and Electronics. Now, this is where his initial success began, as he managed to turn around the struggling subsidiary, National Radio and Electronics. In 1991, J.R.D. Tata, who had led the group for over a half-century at the time, appointed Ratan as his successor. Initially, Tata faced stiff resistance from the heads of various subsidiaries, who had a large amount of operational freedom under the senior Tata's tenure. In response, Tata implemented a number of policies designed to consolidate his powers, and these were things like including the implementation of a retirement age, having subsidiaries report directly to the group office, as well as requiring subsidiaries to contribute their profit to building the Tata Group brand. He really tried to prioritize innovation and delegated many responsibilities to younger employees.
So, being the kingpin of such a large business, what's going to happen now that to the Tata Group now that their founder is gone?
Great question. At the moment, there are 29 publicly listed subsidiary companies under the Tata Group. This comes to a total value of 600 billion Australian dollars. Now, the current head of the company is Natarajan Chandrasekaran. He is the chairman also of the board of Tata Sons. But it's interesting, as Ratan's brother, Noel Tata, could look to take ownership of the company moving forward. It's an extremely, extremely interesting space to follow, as the business is integral to India's economy. It is regarded as a nation builder. The group's largest investments have been directed towards Tata Electronics, Tata Digital, Air India, and battery manufacturing. And so total investments in Tata Electronics will exceed $18 billion in the next few years. And by the end of the financial year in 2027, it will rank among the top 5 in the group company.
For anyone to have had, such an illustrious career, they must have impacted a lot of lives. So what legacy does Tata leave behind?
A massive one, Matthew. I think first and foremost, we need to understand that this career is an extremely philanthropic one. He has invested over $1.2 billion to causes focusing on healthcare, education, rural development, social welfare initiatives, and it was R.D. Tata, and he was a part of a group, who defied skeptics early in his career to give India her first steel enterprise.
Oh, wow. So, thanks so much for that, James. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Matthew.
So we're heading to a quick break now.
When we return, we'll be providing an update on Melbourne's social housing rebuild. Welcome back to Newsline. I'm Sana Katayama.
And I'm Matthew Yunan. We now welcome to the desk our resident culture reporter, William Stanley, to update us on all the goings-on in show business.
Thank you, Matthew. Following this success in Sydney, Kyle and Jackie O's Melbourne move continues to fall short. Notable advertisers AMP, Bendigo Bank, Flight Centre and Australian Super have either stopped or are reviewing their advertising deals with the program. This comes after Kyle has been accused of normalising violent misogyny led by an anti-discrimination group, the Mad Effing Witches. The radio program continues to lose popularity in Melbourne, falling to a share of just 5.2% of the radio market. Now, Brat Summer may be over in the Northern Hemisphere, but it's now coming down under. Laneway Festival has announced Charlie XCX as its headliner for the upcoming edition of the festival that will be touring the country in 2025. There has been a lot of speculation around the announcement due to the laneway billboards of the pop star's latest album popping up in cities around Australia. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is back in the headlines this week, but for different reasons. The infamous hacker is the subject of a new play by playwright Patricia Cornelius titled Truth. The play will ask tough questions about freedom of information and the ethics of whistleblowing. Truth will premiere at Melbourne's Malthouse Theatre in February. And Martin Scorsese has addressed retirement rumours, saying he hopes God gives him the strength to make more movies. The 81-year-old spoke before an awards ceremony in Turin. He said this is not a goodbye to cinema and he still has more films left in the tank. Scorsese's last film was the award-winning Killers of the Flower Moon back in 2023. And that's all for culture news. Back to you guys.
Thanks for the update, William. The demand for retirement living is growing, but for downsizers, there's just one catch. Many aged care facilities don't allow pets. Lily Beamish reports.
At
Lifestyle Meridian, pets are at the centre of the community. With dogs everywhere, there's enough pets to go around. Pets bring joy, purpose and activity to our lives, and as we age, their presence grows all the more important. However, not all seniors looking towards transitional homes or aged care facilities will be lucky enough to find space for their pets, with new data finding that just 18% of aged living options Australia-wide allow pets. This leaves seniors facing heartbreaking choices of what to do with their furry family members.
There's no way I'd be going anywhere without him because, he was part of the family.
We looked everywhere, and if they wouldn't take pets, we wouldn't come.
Well, because people don't want to be separated from their pets when they move, when they get older and move to somewhere like this.
Having pets in aged care significantly increases seniors' quality of life, with 86% of seniors reporting feeling an increase in mental and physical health, and 75% reporting an increased sense of companionship.
Well, a lot of the times when people have to surrender their pets because if they don't have other family members or friends that can take their pet, they've got to surrender them to shelters. When you do move into residential care, everyone knows you give up everything you own apart from what fits into a room. Now, having to surrender your pet, who is your best friend, and there's no doubt about it, as well, that is just ridiculously wrong.
With ongoing support from local organisations, pet-friendly aged care facilities are changing lives for the better. For many seniors, it's not just a home, it's a community. I'm Lily Beamish, reporting for RMIT Newsline.
That's all for now. Join us at 5 p.m. to hear about the latest news on the restrictions on university student numbers.
And the story of a local cafe's beef with council and a backyard restaurant with Melbourne's best meatballs.
I'm Matthew Yunan.
And I'm Sana Katayama. Thanks for watching, and catch you soon.
RMIT would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land on which the university stands.
We respectfully recognise elders past and present. Welcome to Newsline, live from the RMIT studios.
Good evening and welcome back to Newsline. I'm James Beale.
And I'm Sana Katayama.
For over a year now, crowds have been gathering every Sunday out the front of the State Library of Victoria, calling for an end to the Israel-Hamas war. While the weekly Free Palestine rallies have been a visible presence in the CBD, people have been gathering and finding other ways to creatively protest against the humanitarian crisis in Palestine. Melanie Bakewell reports.
You might imagine protest to look a certain way. Speeches, chanting, and people marching at a rally. But for some, there are other ways to demonstrate. At a community workshop held over the weekend, an initiative called Flood the Post invited people to create hand-drawn postcards to send to their local representatives.
A lot of folk who participated were writing to the politicians for the first time and stating their demands.
Their last event, held earlier this year, produced almost 11,000 postcards. With growing concern from civil rights groups about the right to protest being curtailed by anti-protest laws across Australia, art has an impactful role to play.
In a mass movement, there needs to be a variety of actions because the story can't just be angry people yelling at each other. I personally believe that art and creativity is a great way to do that.
In March this year, Lucas Lee put a call out for people to help fold 12,000 paper kites.
The official death toll of children right now is sitting at 16,500. When we first started this project, it was 12,000, and it has just climbed and climbed.
According to a recent analysis by Oxfam, more women and children have been killed by the Israeli military in the last year than in the equivalent period of any other conflict in the last 20 years.
We have brought in people who would not come to protest normally. We have brought mothers, we have brought families, we've shared meals while we made kites. This is a long struggle, and we need to look after each other as well.
Whether it's the amount of people in the streets, the number of kites folded, or the number of hand-drawn postcards arriving in the mail, organisers are hoping that their messages of ceasefire and lasting peace in the region hit home. Mel Bakewell reporting for RMIT, Melbourne.
To education news now, and there's been a lot of discussion lately about Australia's International Student Cap Bill, which has just gained the support of a Senate committee. The bill is set to impose new restrictions on the number of international students coming to Australia, a move that could significantly impact universities and the higher education sector. For more on this, we go live to our reporter, Wynn, who's been following the story closely. When we've heard that the Senate committee has backed the controversial International Student Cap Bill, but it came with a recommendation. Can you tell us what that recommendation is and what the latest developments are?
Yes. On Wednesday, the Senate committee threw its support behind the International Student Cap Bill, but they also made important recommendation as well. The committee suggests that while the cap on the student number should stay, the minister should no longer have the power to limit which courses university and TAFE can offer to the international student. They also recommended that the education provider, ESOS agency, and the immigration minister be consulted before any new cuts are introduced. This will give the university more control over the course offering.
Wynn, for our viewers who might not be familiar, what exactly is this student cap bill about? How would it affect universities and international students?
Yeah, great question. The International Student Cap Bill was introduced in August, and it limits the number of new international students that Australia can accept starting in 2025 next year. This cap is set to 270,000 new enrollment. And this is how the Education Minister introduced the bill last month.
There'll be more in our universities, and there'll be fewer
in our private vocational providers. Students are back, but so are the shonks, people that are seeking to exploit this industry to make a quick buck.
Australia has long been a popular destination for international students. So how might this cap affect current student numbers, and what might be the broader impact on the economy, Win?
No, that's right. Australia currently hosts over 600,000 international students. If this cap takes effect, it could reduce the number of students entering the country, particularly impacting on the university that rely heavily on the international tuition fees. And for the student, it might mean more competition for the sport. And for the economy, fewer international students could mean fewer skilled migrants staying in Australia after the graduation.
As we've heard, Australia's position in global higher education rankings has slid in recent months. Could this policy affect the competitiveness of Australian universities internationally, Win?
Yes, sure. This is a very timely question, as we are already seeing the warning sign in global ranking. Recently, the Time Higher Education Index for the 2025 showed a drop of ranking for the several Australian top universities. For example, the University of Melbourne dropped from 37 to 39 this year. This drop could highlight the growing concern that the policy like the student cap bill could further weakening the status of Australian university on the global stage.
Thank you, Win, for that report. A Kensington cafe owner has been forced by the council to shut his takeaway window to avoid hefty fines. Matthew Unan reports.
In the heart of the leafy inner city suburb of Kensington, in Melbourne's northwest, Local Folk Cafe has been serving its customers delicious meals and thirst-quenching smoothies and coffees for years. But on the 20th of September, Melbourne City Council ordered the cafe to shut its walk-up window. The order came without warning or explanation, and the cafe owner, Ashley Benson, has been left speechless. He says he's been operating for more than 10 years and has never had any issues, so he's stunned at being forced to make the change at his business.
No, never. We've always worked well with the local councils and their laws and the public. We want to fit in. We want to do the right thing here.
The window had served as a convenient takeaway point where customers could order and pick up their drinks without having to enter the cafe.
Being a corner shop, it's an integral part of our business is to have an operating coffee window.
The window was helpful for customers with kids or prams or dogs. It also serves as a means of accessibility and inclusion for customers with wheelchairs, given the door of the entrance to the cafe is narrow and there is a step to enter the restaurant.
Having the hatch closed has been quite frustrating for myself and many other local residents. Personally, it was a really easy, quick way for me to get food and drink while I'm on the run with my pram. And unfortunately now, I've got to bring a friend or ask someone to look after the pram and maybe my daughter while I go inside. So it's quite frustrating for me.
It's actually made it impossible for me to come here by myself now, because if I've got the dog and the pram, I can't actually go inside without leaving my dog outside, which I'm not comfortable with.
Locals said they were shocked this was happening, especially after the cafe owner did so much for the community when times were tough.
A couple of years ago when the bushfires had started and our Prime Minister had left the country, he actually opened the cafe just in the morning, just from the window, for coffee and pastries.
A City of Melbourne spokesperson said they are working with the owner to find a way for the cafe to continue serving customers through the window while keeping the footpath safe and accessible for everyone. Melbourne City Council's decision to force the window shut comes after they recently installed new parking barriers in the area, reducing the already limited spots available for customers to park. And local residents say it's just another example of the council being out of touch.
People who have babies, people with dogs, people walking to work, people just find that so convenient.
Matthew Unan, RMIT Newsline.
Since recording that piece, you'll be happy to know that the council has allowed the cafe to reopen the takeaway window.
Coming up after the break, we'll visit a local backyard that has become an internet sensation for its meatballs.
And we take a deep dive into the fast-paced world of pickleball. Stay with us on Newsline.
Welcome back to Newsline. The growth of social media has turned some Melbourne restaurants into internet sensations. And for one business, it's been a way for them to share their authentic family traditions with the world. Archie Bear reports.
Tucked away in a typical house in Fitzroy lies a unique part of Melbourne's food scene. Nonna's House is the brainchild of over 50 years of family history, serving authentic, homemade Italian sandwiches straight out of the backyard.
It's uncomplicated, just really nice food, and I think a lot of people want that these days, which is nice. And this unusual romantic sort of situation in the backyard is a lovely thing.
Made fresh out of the kitchen, their food has quickly become a favourite among locals, with their meatball sub regularly selling out before closing time.
Just took a big bite, and the meatballs, there's like 4 big chunks of meatballs, and they're really nice and juicy.
And it wouldn't have been possible without the help of social media, which has become the new home for restaurant marketing. Their Nonna's House Instagram page has reached more than 22,000 followers, helping attract people from all over the world.
And also found out that, their Instagram is really popular. Yeah. So, I checked it out, and I finally, just made it here and then tried this nice meatball sandwich, and it's really amazing. Yeah.
Nonna's House is really emblematic of a changing food culture within Australia, where restaurants must use social media to keep bringing in customers and to keep Melbourne's food scene thriving.
The widespread use of social media. Even yesterday we had some people come in from, they just got off the plane from Singapore, and they were going to go, they had to wait to get to the Airbnb. They looked it up and they came and had meatball subs and some fries and whatnot here.
At its core, Nonna's House remains a celebration of good food and family.
Enjoy that, mate. It's a tribute to all migrants that have come, or people that have come to Australia. And we have this wonderful diversity here in the backyard. And it's like home. It's wonderful. I love sharing with everybody. It's not a job, it's just a joy.
Archie Bear, RMIT Newsline.
You might not have heard, but there's a new sport in town. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in Australia, and it blends some of the world's most popular racket sports. And people can't get enough of it. Our very own Sina Katayama reports.
Ravi Shankar has been organizing a pickleball group in the CBD for the past year. It started with a few rackets, some hollow plastic balls, and a single court.
In short, you can say mini tennis. It's a combination of badminton and ping pong and tennis, and it's played on a small court.
But quickly the club turned into a group with over 1,700 members. Ravi, with the help from other members, organizes a pickleball session 3 times a week. At $10 a session and relative low intensity, the sport attracts players of all ages and backgrounds.
Beauty of the game is learning curve. Learning curve is very, like within a day or within a couple of hours you can learn. And all those who have never played any sport, even they can learn.
Like after the first session, I think oh, this is really fun and I want to continue.
The Australian Pickleball Association only started in 2020. But between 2023 and 2024, the number of Australian pickleball players doubled, with over 10,000 members across the country today. This follows the explosion of popularity in the US, where the sport originated and had around 48.3 million players in 2023, according to the Association of Pickleball Professionals. While the sport was invented over 50 years ago, the relatively low cost of running and playing pickleball has attracted people.
As far as games go, it's pretty low barrier to entry, both rules-wise and equipment-wise.
Members say it's not just about the sport, but the community.
Becoming like a small community here, and you just enjoy the atmosphere and the environment. It's really friendly, really warm, and you're just welcoming everyone.
As long as they keep coming, we keep organizing, irrespective of the weather and everything. People are here. It's raining now and people are still playing.
The Australian Pickleball Association says that the sport has grown 20% every year since its arrival and expects the popularity to continue. Sina Katayama, Newsline. We're heading to a short break now, but we will be back with the weather across the country.
And William Stanley brings us all the updates in sport. Stay with us. Welcome back to Newsline. I'm James Beale.
And I'm Sena Katayama.
Time for a look at the latest in sport now with sports reporter William Stanley. What's happening in the Women's A-League, Will?
Thanks, James. There's plenty of happening in the Women's A-League at the moment, as they have put out an urgent appeal to make the league fully professional ahead of the 2026 Asian Cup. 96% of the players support the move towards the full-time. A significant amount of players in the league are currently forced to take up part-time jobs or leave the league due to low wages. With the Asian Cup coming up, players and stakeholders alike are hoping to reach a suitable deal. And in the Women's T20 World Cup, it has continued this morning, with India beating Sri Lanka by a convincing 82 runs. Meanwhile, Australia sits on top of their group, and their next match will be against Pakistan early on Saturday morning. Over in Western Australia, their bid for the next NRL team has ended abruptly. The Rugby League Commission has rejected the bid, stating the Perth-based team offer was disrespectful. WA's 27-year wait for a team will have to continue. In AFL news, Port Adelaide star Dan Hewson wants to play for Collingwood. Potential three-way trade, including Gold Coast, is on the cards. GWS has locked in its promising first-round draft pick Connor Stone, who was signed with the club until the end of 2026.
William, the new signing is welcome news for GWS as they've already lost 3 key players. What else can we expect from the AFL trade period?
Well, Sina, we can expect plenty more drama. It was great news for GWS, considering they have lost an amount of talent that will be hard to replace. But the Suns, in other news, are pressuring the Tigers for Daniel Rioli. Now, the Suns already have a number of draft picks, but they are hoping to bolster their list through the Daniel Rioli trade, so we'll keep an eye on that. There is still much more to unfold for the Eagles over in the West. They landed Jack Graham earlier this week, and they are hopeful to land another Tiger in Liam Baker. And Shea Bolton might be going over to the west as well, as he wants to return back to his homeland. Freo seem to be the favourites there, but I believe the Eagles could still swoop in for a deal. And in Port Adelaide, Ivan Soldo, he wants back to Melbourne. Considering he's been injured quite a bit, it's still up in the air where he will land, but it seems that he will get his wish in going back to Victoria. And that's all in sport. Back to you, Sina and James.
Thanks, Will. To the weather now. We're heading back to William Stanley, who's putting on his weatherman cap to deliver the forecast for the week ahead. What are we expecting, William?
Well, good evening, and thank you, James. It's been a rather sunny one in Melbourne today, starting off with a chilly 6 degrees in the morning, with temperatures peaking at a lovely 20 degrees this afternoon. Looking ahead tomorrow, across the country, Sydney is expected to experience some rain before reaching a top of 24 degrees. It will be a similar story in the nation's capital, with Canberra starting with a low of 6 degrees before reaching a top of 25. Down south in Adelaide, it's expected to be mostly sunny and reach a top of 21 early in the afternoon before a late cool change. Meanwhile, in Hobart, it's expected to reach a maximum of 16 degrees with a possible shower before fading down to a low 9 degrees late in the evening. Now, for those in Perth, make sure you wear a hat because it will be a hot one, reaching a high of 30 degrees. And over in Brisbane, they can brace for some early morning clouds before reaching a high of 25. Now, up north in Darwin, it's expected to reach a nationwide top of 36 degrees. So remember to stay sun smart out there. And looking ahead for the week, Melbourne will be cool tomorrow with a slight chance of a shower, reaching a top of 17 degrees. Heading into the weekend, it will be similar with some clouds on Friday. It will remain cloudy, with Saturday reaching a top of 18 degrees. While Sunday will heat up a bit, it's going to hit 24. And next week looks similar, but you'll need to get your umbrellas out, everyone, because rain is on the way. Monday and Tuesday will be raining, while Wednesday will also see rain, but hit a high of 25. And that's all for the week to come. Back to you, Sina and James.
Thank you, William. So, Sina, what are you looking forward to this summer?
Oh, I have to say Laneway. Are you going?
Oh, I'd love to go. I'm not 100% sure at the moment, but if I were to go, who do you think I should go watch?
I mean, obviously Charlie. It's a brat summer for you. It's a brat summer for me. But Claro's coming. Bicep's going to be here as well. So there's going to be some like range of bedroom pop to brat to some techno and house. I think you're going to have everything. But yeah, are you going to go to the Australian Open as well? Some sports?
I'll definitely catch a game.
Yeah?
I'll definitely catch a game. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But that's our show for today. Thank you for joining us. On Newsline, I'm James Beale.
And I'm Sana Katayama. Thank you and have a good night, Melbourne.